Hello, Scorpio. This is Lee at Fresh Astrology. I hope you're doing well. And happy birthday to those who had birthdays in November. I'm filming this in November. I guess you're not a December birthday, but I'm sending a happy birthday message anyway, um, if you didn't get it last month. So anyway, let's take a look. I'm going to look at kind of follow the moon this month because on the full moon and new moon, they're kind of hot spots in the month. They're not always like we have full moons and new moons, every month, they're like, very, very common. They're just cycles of life. But, in terms of looking at this month, there's more interesting activity around this time. And so that's why I want to look at the full moon and new moon. So the full moon's around December 12, 13. And then the new moon's December 26 and around those days. So that's the timing, the kind of the two clusters in the month that I want to look at. And if you're watching this after the live recording, this was a live recording where it was live streamed. And if people are here and want to ask questions, they can write them in. And so I may, during this recording, kind of turn and read a question and try to answer it. And just make sure you subscribe. No sound. I don't know why there's no sound. On my end, it should be playing because my microphone's on. So sorry. Tell me, if a bunch of other people have no sound. There's one person here who says there's no sound, but there's nothing on my computer that says there's no sound. So anyway, you can ask questions here, and I'll do my best to answer. And then if you're watching it later, just listen in anyway. Even though it's not your question, you may learn something. I'm not sure it's this. I think it may be your computer. Okay, good. So some other people here. Great. So some other people here, maybe you can see their chat. Thank you for confirming that. It helps me know that I don't need to abort the mission here. I know I do have a dog here who's new to me. And so that may become an issue because she's just kind of nervous. So anyway, let's just jump in before we get too distracted with all the variables. Okay, so for the full moon, the moon itself is in Gemini, and the sun will still be in Sagittarius early in the month, around December 12, 13. Jupiter will have already gone into Capricorn, and I've done a Jupiter reading if you want to go listen to that, so that I talk more in depth about Jupiter itself and what that means for you. Also, if you want more in depth, I have something called a membership lounge that's at leesears.com. I'll try to remember. I don't think I put it in yet, but I'll put a link in below. But leesears.com is where my new website is. And I have a membership lounge. It's kind of like a private YouTube. And where I do more. I do some astrology lessons. I do, right now I've got a series on the South Node. I've got, I have the annuals up. And I do, in the membership lounge, you get all the readings early. I do some weekly astrology for people. And members get an opportunity to have a free reading each month. So everybody goes into a drawing and I pull a name out of a hat and that person gets a free reading. So for a Scorpio, the general meaning here is that across the axis in your chart that has to do with money and your value system, you're going to have a full moon effect. So that can mean that, on a very mundane level, maybe you're cashing out an account. You decide to sell some stock or something, or you do something that seems more like an ending with money. Like you end a stream of money, or you recognize it could be also like this big light bulb moment where you see something around your value system and your money. And there are just all kinds of possibilities here. It depends on your patterns and what you do typically. But when you have that light bulb moment, know that it's a bigger moment. Like, take it seriously. Sometimes we have light bulb moments, like we may be driving and some really profound idea comes to us, like a really important aha moment. And we remember it for a couple of hours and then it just kind of goes away because we get distracted. And around the full moon, write down the stuff that's coming to you about your value system. Maybe how your values have shifted, or maybe how you don't feel in alignment with your values. Maybe you feel like the way you get money doesn't line up enough with your values. We can't always make it match exactly, it depends. But, or maybe you get an aha moment of how you could spend more in alignment with your values, or your earnings could come through ways that align with your value system so that you feel better about yourself. It doesn't have to be that. I'm just trying to give you some ideas. It could really be so many different things. Let me see if anybody has a question about this. So let me know if you have a question about that. But really, the axis of intrigue earlier in the month around the full moon has to do with your value system. And values can equate to, like, I value family and hearth and home, or, I value honesty. It could be that kind of value. And it has a lot to do with your own self-worth. Maybe you'll have an awareness, an aha moment around how you value yourself or don't. And maybe you can end a way of devaluing yourself. So you could consciously, intentionally end some bad habits around devaluing yourself in the workplace. And we do this in a variety of passive, less passive ways, where we put up with behavior we shouldn't put up with, or we put up with taking on too much work when we don't really have to. There are all kinds of ways we devalue ourselves, or when we're negotiating salary, we don't really negotiate. We just accept whatever is given to us. So how could you work on your own self-valuing through maybe your daily work, maybe something to do with other things to do with money? Are you treating yourself like somebody worthy of good things if you mismanage your money? If you kind of fallen into some habits around money that don't serve you. So these are the kinds of things to pay attention to here. And there's nothing really more than that there. But what's also going on early in the month is this very, very unusual transit. You're going to have, at the time of the full moon, you're going to have Venus just right there, just sandwiched between Saturn and Pluto, while Jupiter is essentially, moving over and beginning to conjunct the South Node. And this is just all very unique. And then you've got the North Node across the way also interacting here. And then, some other things like, Neptune's interacting with this Saturn, Venus, Pluto mashup, as is Mars. So it's very charged. It's a very charged moment. And Jupiter's, aligning in a certain way with Uranus. So it's kind of lit up like a Christmas tree or a menorah or something else. And for you guys, this is happening in your third house. So this, on a very fundamental level, and in the membership lounge, I go over kind of the houses, how to look at the houses on a kind of a very broad brushstroke kind of way, and getting away from the mundane stuff. Like, mundane means like the daily little things that can happen. But this is not a mundane transit. This is not a mundane time. And I really want to drive that home for people. This is more important than that. So yeah, something mundane could happen. Mundane, like, I bought a little online course to learn how to put widgets together, unless that totally transforms your life, that's not what we're talking about here. If you're just learning to type, not that anybody needs typing lessons these days, but, that's, unless it totally transforms your life, actually learning to type in our world would be transformative. So I take it back. But there's some kind of learning program, a school program, a skill you're picking up. Maybe it has to do with writing if it's Jupiter here. Maybe it's a legal skill you're picking up. Maybe it's a publishing marketing kind of skill you're picking up. But there's some kind of important thing you're supposed to learn. So if you're like, I'm not learning anything, I don't feel like I need to learn anything, what's she talking about? I say, get thee to a course catalog fast, because there's something you're supposed to be learning here. And there may be also something you're supposed to be teaching, but I would say it's really both. You're meant to be learning and teaching. You're never just the master and you're never just the student. You're always both. You're a blend of both. There's always some way you can lead by example and help others or directly teach them. And then there's some people around you who you could learn from. And these are important people to learn from, important situations to learn from. And maybe you're actually demonstrating some important things for others to learn, where it's whatever you're doing right now is radically useful, or it could be. And so what could that be for you is a question. If I was working with you personally, I would say, what could that be for you? How do you feel about this? Okay, so Rooted Reality says, I've learned to stop allowing others to walk all over me. Hooray for you. Their opinions are none of my business. Hooray. Rooted Reality. I love that. That's very, very good. Very, very good. Liz Morgan says, boundaries high, expectations of others low. My new mantra. I like that, Liz. Low expectations or no expectations is really a very good way to go through life. Because then we start, I think one of the most important things about that, because at first it just sounds really jaded, but it isn't really. It may come through tougher experiences to be able to unlearn expectations, because we grow up around tons of people who have expectations. Like, you're supposed to learn to tie your shoes, you're supposed to learn how to, be toilet trained. You're supposed to learn how to ride a bike. You're supposed to learn your ABCs. There are all these expectations that we grow up and, we're just in a world filled with expectations. But that doesn't mean it has to be that way. It's just the way it has developed. But you can unlearn expectations. And once you begin doing that, you realize how radical it is. So Liz, you're about to actually embark on a very radical journey with this kind of ridding yourself of expectation. And one of the most radical things about it is not so much what you do or don't expect from someone else. It's what you begin to understand about yourself and how you treat yourself, that as we grow up in this world of expectations, we start demanding so much and expecting so much of ourselves that we could never possibly do. We develop a very unrealistic idea of how we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to do and how soon we're supposed to do it. And to unlearn all that, to get rid of that, it is radical. It just will change you and your life so much. So hooray for Liz. Ram A, Scorpion rising Taurus. I have just started my school nursing at age of 35. Yay! Yay for you. Let's celebrate all the people starting things like this or getting rid of expectations. Let's just make it a celebration. Good for you. Beautiful. And that's another thing too. Culture in many cases would send us kind of little subtle messages or not so subtle messages that we can't start something at the age of 35 or 45 or 55 or 65. But of course we can. We can do anything we want to do. We really can. But all these expectations and rules and, that you can't or you shouldn't, they get in the way. And a lot of it's just going on inside of us. So good, good, good. All right, so let's move on to the new moon and see what that's about. Oh, wait, there may have been something else I wanted to say here about. Let's talk about the Saturn, Venus, Pluto thing just a little bit more because it's still very important. For some of you, it is your approach to love. And I hear that in Liz Morgan's, I don't know if she meant it around love, it may be around children, but it's a fifth house kind of thing. So this is also where you judge yourself and your own creativity and ability to create and build in the world. And by build, I just mean anything. To build a life, to build, a casserole, to build, a garden. Sometimes we just get to a place in life where we're really tired and we have lost a little self-confidence or a lot, and we feel like we just can't do anything much, because we just get that tired. And this can be a very rejuvenating time. And I would encourage you to use this if you want to be very intentional. Make an intention kind of candle or something like a ritual around this set of moons here, because I think the full moon can actually be very invigorating for you guys. And it has to do with how you wire your brain. And so, like in the case of the person going to nursing school, it's a way of rewiring the brain. In the case of just specifically stating to oneself what one's new mantra is, like I'm going to rewire my thinking this particular way, is very powerful. But there's even more here. So see what's coming up in around this time frame of December 12th, 13th, and also we'll look to the new moon in a second around the 26th of December and through that week. But I would say this is more radical than not. For some, it does have to do with love. For some, it has to do with children. For some, it has to do with their creativity. But you're going to feel more energized than you have. And this energy should assist you. But you've got a very dynamic energy with this Mars. It's tempered by Neptune and by Venus. So I think it's very well balanced. And this is an area that's been this thinking area of life, the way you think about life, about yourself. And it's really just your thoughts have been heavy and been challenging for you. You've been challenged by the way you think a lot. And maybe some of you, it has to do with your neighborhood and your cousins and your siblings. There may be people involved here for some where it's just been a challenging environment for you, or maybe in a school environment. But, and so in this very place where you've been so challenged and it's been so hard, it now becomes much, much easier, but only through having learned the lessons, having seen your patterns, owning stuff. But the goal here is to get to your authentic you, to strip away what's not you and to end up with what is. Because the beautiful you is just sitting there under all the layers of debris of what's not you. And this is a stripping away to find the diamond, to find the golden globe that is you and your soul. Okay, so let's move on to the new moon. Let me see if we have any questions. Good day. Omilade nails, Omilade. I don't know how to say it, but I see the word nails. Good day to you too. So ask me any questions if you have them. We're going to look at the new moon. The new moon is very similar in that all these planets that I just discussed, they're still linking to one another. The new moon's happening in Capricorn. The sun has gone into Capricorn by December 26th. The moon is here. Mercury is almost here, but not quite. And Venus has moved on to the fourth house, but everything's kind of just floating. It's like this big raft of planets. And I think it was in the membership lounge, I was talking about how it's like as though like all these planets are named after gods and goddesses. And the sun has sort of a god associated with it, and the moon. in the old Greek style, Roman style of a pantheon. But it's as though there's a council that has been called of all the pantheon of gods and goddesses and energies. There's a lot of focus here, and you have to see by looking at this kind of chart that something's going on that's very important. And I just want each individual to know that we're not all sitting around in the audience, like waiting and watching for it to entertain us, whatever this is. We're active participants. And so I really want to encourage each person to understand that you're an active participant. And for a Scorpio, the way you can best participate in this, and the way you're supposed to, is to rewire your brain and be learning something really important, embarking on some kind of retooling of what you know, which could be nursing school, could be just doing, in the coaching world, we call it thought work, but learning that you have control of your brain and your thoughts. It's not like it's just sitting out there and controls. We really do have control over it. There's something more powerful inside of you that can control your brain and your thoughts. But it takes practice, and it's not easy. It is not easy necessarily. I can give you that for sure. And with Saturn and Pluto, it's been hard for you to do. But it is doable. It is doable. So this new moon is where one could really be turning over a new leaf somehow. It may have to do with relationships for many of you, but it's more like a decision, a starting point. So for some, it could literally be starting a new relationship. But I just want you to understand it's way more powerful than that. It's way more about your personal development than it is about some new relationship. Even if it's a very important relationship, it's far more important what's going on inside of you here and how you're processing what's going on inside of you and how you're taking it out into the world through Neptune and Mars kind of helping to bring something through you that's more divine. It's like the way the divine wants to move through you, through your specific talents, out into the world. You're meant to share a message of some sort. You may be sharing it now, or maybe you're preparing and you'll share it later, but you're preparing and learning and working on all this stuff. But there's something important you need, I would say, in short, that each one of you has an important message to bring to the world. And through you, it's going to happen, or it's supposed to. And some people will bring the important message, and some people just won't because life feels hard and it just feels too difficult. But I think all of you can, certainly. Just know that there is something very important you're supposed to do right now, and it has to do with language and the message you bring, what you can bring linguistically, like if you're writing, speaking, teaching, there's something important. So even if you're taking a class now, it's enabling you perhaps to be able to bring this message later. So, the timing doesn't have to be exactly in sync. Like maybe you're writing an important novel now, or maybe you're writing it later, but you're prepping for it now. This is where your brain is in development for whatever you're going to do, perhaps. So even if it's not happening this month, take the message seriously because it's here. And I just want you to know that this is a very important time for all. And even though we're in the midst of the holidays, it's normally a time we slow down and we just kind of take a break. It's okay to take a break, but not too long, because there's something so important that each one of us has to do. And we have to kind of be awake for it. Blessings to you too, Caramel Goddess. What a lovely name. I love that name. And something nails just says, hey, I'm 12. Oh, so okay, you were born December 6, 1978. Can you tell me what Jupiter brings for me in 2020? Well, I can't do your chart right now, but I did do a Jupiter reading. You should go and listen to that because it'll go into Scorpio and go into the Jupiter stuff more in depth. I mean, in general, it has exactly to do with what I was just talking about, because what I was just talking about is where Jupiter is. It's in the third house, just so you know. And if you go into the membership lounge and join there, I talk about the houses and like all the meanings of the houses and the meanings of the planets too. And here on YouTube, I have a separate Jupiter video, but I will answer in brief that it has a lot to do with what I was just talking about. And I've been talking with Scorpios for a while about this idea that your sign in particular has struggled with mental wiring and the way communication comes out. You've struggled to get your message right. And you've been studying on it and working on it, and it's been challenging, maybe more than it should be, or you may be puzzled. Why is it so hard for me to message correctly, or why do people hear, I think I say A and then people hear B. And, there's been this kind of generalized challenge for Scorpios, and it's happened in a variety of different ways because each one of you is unique, different age groups, etc. But Jupiter has to do with this exactly, but it comes in to assist. It comes in like a mentor or some kind of major ability to finally get it, for all the puzzle pieces to come together so that you can learn what you need to learn, say what you need to say, and you will be heard. And it will revolutionize whatever it's supposed to revolutionize. And some of you are, frankly, there's definitely some love juju here. So I see some of you finally able, maybe like, let's take a dating website, for example, because the third house can sometimes show a dating website on a more mundane level. But that's not the big important thing. But on a more mundane level, it's like you could maybe finally get your profile right. You finally talk about yourself in a way that the right person can hear it and you can meet. You can attract one another. So, and that's not mundane. If you're finding the love of your life, that's certainly not mundane. But on a deeper level, it's about understanding how you think and how you translate what you think out into the world. That's the important piece. But there is love here too for a single Scorpio. Let me see if I have any questions. Carl, can you tell me why someone has hurt me so much? Well, let's take a look at just the world of hurt and what's going on with hurt. I can't tell you why they have, but it does have to do with power struggles and power dynamics. So in relationships, many Scorpios have had some really interesting and sometimes painful power dynamics. And Liz earlier mentioned the concept of boundaries. And I think that's a really important area for Scorpios to start understanding, like, where are your boundaries? Are they too low or non-existent in certain areas? Are they too high where you've got a big stonewall fortress between you and others, the world? So I don't know why someone hurt you, but my best guess is that person, there's several things. There could be people in all of your lives who they themselves are so hurt and broken, seemingly broken, temporarily broken. It doesn't mean you need to go back to them or try to fix them, because that's not the point of this. But usually when someone else hurts you very badly, it's because they themselves have some serious issues that they need to go deal with. Maybe they'll deal with them, maybe they won't, but that's usually the why. And there maybe just was an imbalance of power, a power dynamic that was sort of wonky in a relationship or in many relationships. And what you've been learning to do is how to see that, avoid it, and that's the rewiring of the brain. It's learning, like, oh, okay, when somebody does this, that's a boundary issue. Or when somebody does that, that's a power dynamic thing, and I'm not going to play those games. You learn through life. It's the school of life. And the school of life can absolutely be painful. And we learn to avoid the things that are painful. It's like putting your hand on a hot stove. You very quickly learn you don't want to do that, It's not hard to teach a kid to not put their hand on the hot stove, because what the first time they're burned, they are never going to touch that again. And sometimes it's that way with love too. We learn like what to do, what not to do, but it hurts. It absolutely hurts. Yeah, Gabby says broken hurt people hurt other people. Yeah, not everyone is balanced. Exactly. But sometimes if we're very like if we're mostly balanced and mostly okay, we kind of expect others to be mostly okay, and then they're not, and it's just kind of a shock. Let's see. TLL. You can finally hear me? Good. Branding of a company, I mean. Let's see. I guess the third house may also refer to branding. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It does have a lot to do with marketing and branding. So if you're working on those kinds of things, that's actually, thank you so much for bringing that up. So TLL says, because after 6 years, I'm finally able to successfully brand my nonprofit. Yeah, that is such a great example. It's the thing you've struggled with, you can finally do. You're 5 times a Scorpio with Aries ascendant. Yeah. So thank you so much for bringing that up. As she says, or he, I don't know, the branding, marketing, trying to like work on something around your own company, or if you do that for a living, if you help others, especially through the internet. Almost all branding is and marketing is geared for the internet nowadays. So absolutely, great point. Yes, the new moon. Let's go to the sibling relationships. Absolutely. This area where Jupiter, the new moon, Pluto, and Saturn are the big hot spot in the chart, everybody's chart right now. For you guys, it can absolutely be impacting your sibling relationships, your cousin relationships in a big way. So if you're involved with those people in your life, it can be, you can be turning over a new leaf, which could mean any variety of things. I can call her back. All right. Any variety of things. Oh, there's Doggy. We're probably gonna have to stop now. But yeah, absolutely. She's just gonna yip. Yeah. All right, guys, I'm sorry. Little Doggy has said I must stop now. All right, take care, guys.